right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in here this week to the PWZ podcast. I'm here with Ragni, otherwise known as Chubby Dudley from ECW. How's it going?
Beautiful, Rick. Beautiful.
Well, thank you for joining me. Now, you've started your own podcast recently, basically a reaction podcast as you're going through the early years of ECW.
Yeah, it's it's a whole new world that has brought Chubby Dudley back to life.
I was surprised to hear about this, to be honest with you. Somebody told me about it, and I was like, really? And you're going through like the really early years when it was still NWA Eastern Championship Wrestling. And personally, that's my favorite era. So
That shocked the hell out of me, but go ahead.
I'll tell you why, because I just loved that style of wrestling in that era. And, I was not necessarily an extreme fan. Okay. However, I did watch ECW through its entire run. And I enjoyed it. I went to so many live shows. I've been to the arena. I've been to the pay-per-views in Danbury, Buffalo, everywhere. We used to go all over the place to watch ECW. So it was always, I always was there pretty much for the entire career of that company.
Wow. Now, where are you from?
I live in currently Wallingford, Connecticut. I lived in New Haven, Connecticut at the time, which is 20 minutes the other way. But but ECW was just something else, and obviously it was ahead of its time, even as early back as that in a way as well.
It's crazy because when I started doing this whole thing, like a buddy, the whole thing came about so I do an interview channel as well. The Bay Ragni show. It's on YouTube. And one of the guys I interviewed in the music business, Ray and Belcher, who he used to play bass in Wednesday 13's band, and he has a country rock band called Early Ray. We became like when you do these shows, you end up becoming friends with some of these people.
Absolutely.
And me and him have truly become brothers. And we text almost every freaking day. And he texted me one night, at midnight. He goes, "Yo, you up?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I got to call you. It's important." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "I just got home." He goes, "I got home from an acoustic gig I was doing earlier." He goes, "I've been laying in bed for 4 hours watching ECW. I'm just completely sucked in. And I'm saying to myself as I'm watching it, I wonder what Bay thinks of this match. I wonder what Bay would say about this person. I wonder what Bay would say about this finish. I wonder what Bay knows about this." He's like, and then I was like, "Bay should do a reaction channel." And I'm like, "You're a fucking genius. This is the greatest idea I ever heard in my life." So we were talking about it. I'm like, all right. I'm like, this could really work. I'm like, people would be into this. He's like, "Absolutely." So I launched it 2 weeks later, and that was around Thanksgiving, December, when I launched it. And here we are 4 or 5 months later. I'm about to hit 200 subscribers. And I said, he was like, do this match and do that match. I'm like, no. I said, I'm starting from day one, and I'm going to go through match by match, the true history. I said, because I didn't watch a lot of it. I missed a lot of it. So a lot of it's going to be new to me. But as I'm doing this now, I'm just getting to the point now. I'm only on the actual 6th episode of TV. And what I do is each match or segment is an episode on my channel.
Okay.
So as I'm doing it and I'm putting these out and I'm doing it every 3 days is a new episode, I'm getting, honest to God, it's blowing me away. There is legitimately so many people that love Eastern Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you serious?
I'm one of them.
Because I was not a fan. I came from the early Tri-State Wrestling Alliance that I was a huge fan.
Yeah.
And then when Todd, started ECW and the whole new product, I was not a fan. I'm like, this is garbage. This sucks. And then when I got my shot as a Hell Rider when we were there and doing our thing and for a year and got TV and everything, I still was not a fan. I just was not a fan of the product at all. Yeah.
I find that very interesting, really interesting, because there's always a lot. anytime you talk to somebody, they're always very behind the production, I guess, like that. That they love. I guess it was kind of like just a group of guys that were just trying to do their best and put on like a really good product. Kind of a thing.
I loved the locker room.
Yeah.
I loved everybody involved. Behind the scenes, even the fans that I had become friends with.
Yeah.
But the actual product, as a wrestling fan in me, it was not enjoyable to me. I didn't like it. I didn't think the storylines were good. The angles were good. I didn't think the matches were overly good. And as I'm watching it now on TV, I mean, this was the new era with Eddie Gilbert doing the booking.
Mm-hmm.
I still was not a fan.
Um,
But now I see like I knew where Eddie wanted to go with things, but I'm seeing now that Paul's in there because I remember when Paul came in,
mhm.
Eddie brought Paul in because they were best friends.
Yeah.
And the plan was Paul to be, Eddie's partner in the booking, and we all know things happened, and
Mm-hmm.
Eddie got fired, and Paul took over, and et cetera, and history was made. But in my opinion, the TV show itself did not start coming to life until Paul made an appearance on TV.
It's not surprising, really. I mean, because look at Paul. He's kind of like the madman, the genius of professional wrestling in a way. He had such a great, innovative mind, no matter where he worked. I witnessed him in the AWA, NWF. I believe he did a shot did he do a shot in Memphis? I believe. Probably. Yeah,
Probably.
I'm trying to remember, but that guy was everywhere, and everywhere he was, he was fire. He was just amazing where he was.
So I didn't even know. So he was part of that NWF. I had heard so much about that, back in my early like the tri-state days, because a lot of those guys worked for that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. If you go back on, because there's, I don't know if you're aware of the High Spots Network, the company, the merch dealer, whatever.
Yeah.
They have some of it up on their site, but obviously there's some that you can find on YouTube. And Paul was doing commentary there at some points. I don't remember if he managed or not, but I think he did interviews too as well. But I do remember seeing him, just very straight-laced kind of announcer at one point there. This is before he got like really involved. But the NWF was, to me, like it was an organization that was way ahead of its time, probably precursor to ECW, if you say, kind of like how Tri-State was too. They had so many great guys like on the way down. There was guys like Brody and was it Jules Strongbow, DC Drake was there.
Yes,
it was just a little bit.
Winners.
Yeah, it was just a little bit. Larry was there. Yeah, it was just a little bit more edgy of a product than say watching like WWE and WCW and stuff at the time.
Wrestling fans, promoters, wrestlers, and anyone who enjoys pro wrestling now have something new to be excited about. The Wrestling Fans International Association, the WFIA, is back. WFIA is an association that exists to promote, grow, and support professional wrestling throughout the world. Membership is free. Your membership includes a free digital bi-monthly publication of the Wrestling Fan News newsletter, association updates, voting privileges, and much more. Please go to thewfia.org, that's thewfia.org, and become a member today.
Read about the Northern Wrestling Federation in the book presented by Russellville.com, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 2. Hear the story of Roger Ruffin, the man who trained Carl Anderson, the Monster Abyss, Jordan Clearwater, Chris Harris, and Jillian Hall.
Plus 45 other short stories including Jazz, Bobby Eaton, Kamala, Thunder Rosa, Mario Mancini, Scott Casey, PJ Black, Kerry Morton, Sal Renaro, Jeremiah Plunkett, Colby Carino, Bam Bam Malone, and many others.
Get your book today at Russellville.com. Russellville, it's where wrestling lives.
So, tell me about training with Larry Winters and how was that?
Larry was like just such a good dude.
Yeah.
He it's funny, like when I think back, I think like Larry was my initial trainer. Larry and Ron Shaw,
right,
which we talked about before we started recording. And I remember seeing Ron Shaw every week on WWF TV.
Yeah.
And so Ron was bigger than life to me. And Ron is a big boy.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably got a good 4 or 5 inches on me. So I was kind of like taken back by Ron. But Larry was a littler guy, but Larry seemed more like the more in tune guy, like the one, like he really just, I guess because he was so involved in Tri-State, you know, not only as the head trainer, but as the booker and one of the top guys in the company. So he seemed very, it's more than dedicated, just in tune with everything. And he really seemed to care about the students. I got a genuine feeling that he truly did care.
Right.
And he didn't like, you know, pull no punches. He was pretty straight up and honest with you. You know, if he felt you could do things and if you couldn't, or if you should be there or not.
Right. We're big fans of his over here, by the way, on this podcast. So, but we talked. Who was I talking with? I think I spoke with Ron Shaw. We were talking to him, and we were talking about Larry and his AWA match against Larry Zbyszko, which I don't know if you've ever seen that, where the ring breaks in the middle.
No,
it's great. It's that's the first time I ever saw Larry Winters, by the way. And then, you know, obviously later on I saw him in NWF and ECW and elsewhere. I think you know, lots of other places. But that must have been really cool to work with him and stuff. And did he bring you into Tri-State? Did you go into Tri-State right from there?
So I never got a chance to debut for Tri-State. I was scheduled to debut, and then it was Goodhart closed up shop 3 weeks before I was scheduled to debut.
Okay. And then how long was it before let's see, like ECW opened up? Probably what, a year? Maybe?
No, right away.
Right away. Okay.
It literally, Goodhart closed up shop that Saturday morning. Unbeknownst to anybody, he announced on his radio show that it's dead, it's over, goodbye, and he went into hiding. And you know, all the boys are like on the phone trying to figure like what the hell's going on, trying to get hold of Joel. Joel was not answering his phone, and got a phone call to meet at the Springfield ice skating rink where Bob Artiste runs the ice skating rink. And Bob was like, you know, he was like one of the backers in Tri-State. And, Todd Gordon was one of the backers, and they called a meeting with the boys, and they announced, you know, no more Joel, no more Tri-State. It's done. It's over. Dead and buried. Joel's in hiding. He's not talking to nobody. We're going to restart. We're going to rebrand. We're now going to be known as Eastern Championship Wrestling, and we'll let you know when the first show is. And I think the first show is, you know, a month or 6 weeks later.
Wow.
From there, it was pretty quick, and they took over doing the bar shows at the Mike Schmidt's old sports bar.
Right. Were you on that first show, or no?
No. So what happened was because Todd didn't know me.
Okay.
So Todd didn't know what I could do. That summer, I got a tryout match, and I got to do my research on this, and I say this all the time. Todd was like the president of a local charity organization, and I forget what the organization was, and it kills me that I forget it. I could still picture doing my tryout match being there, but he would do a like free show at this summer camp for the kids for this organization, and me and my partner HD had got our tryout match there for Todd, and we worked Stevie Richards, who I went through wrestling school with, and a guy under a mask named the Delaware Dynamo. And we did our match, and Todd gave us a thumbs up and started booking us on every show after that.
Oh, that wasn't like your first match, was it? What was your earliest match like?
That was
your first match.
That was my very first match. Was that tryout match with Todd?
Wow.
Yeah.
So it ended up turning out well.
Yeah, because I had never debuted. I was fresh out of wrestling school, and nobody outside of Tri-State knew who I was.
Right.
So,
was there ever a reason why, Joel? Did it ever come out as to why he just suddenly shut down shop? I don't recall. I'd have to really look into it and Because I don't remember off the top of my head.
Money.
I figured.
He basically, the way his plan was he would do all these small spot shows and build up his storyline, and then he would culminate into the before pay-per-view. He would do these 4 big shows a year, and he would run them in a 3,000 seat arena, and he was drawing 2,000, 2,500 people to these shows.
So those were like the Autumn Armageddons and the Summer Sizzlers and those events that I used to have all those on VHS back in the day.
Yeah. So that's he was packing them in there, but still he was stacking the cards with so much talent and so much expenses that he was still losing money. And the house shows, the smaller shows, they didn't draw too well, so he just got buried, and it got to the point where that show, the big show he had, I guess it was Winter Challenge, I think it was.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was going to be Landell against Buddy Landell versus Buddy Rogers, Battle of the Nature Boys. He was hoping that was going to be the thing to put him truly on the map everywhere and put him over with everybody. And he was 2 weeks out, and he had no ticket sales, and he was just going to take a bath. So he was like, I can't do it. I'm done.
And it's nothing against either of those two gentlemen. I'm a fan of both of those guys, Landell and Rogers. But at that age, who's going to see Buddy Rogers? In a way, I mean, no offense. I'm not trying to be offensive, like a dick or anything. But
I mean, I was the wrestling fan in me. I was so intrigued by. I was hyped and couldn't wait. And plus, I was a huge Buddy Landell mark.
Yeah.
And I had become very good friends with Buddy at that point.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So in wrestling school, the big thing you got to learn how to do is you got to be able to do a flip.
Mm-hmm.
For your suplexes, your hip tosses, all your stuff, anything you're doing, you got to be able to do that flip. And it's just a front flip.
Yep.
I can't fucking do it. Still to this day, I cannot fucking front flip. If you give me a hip toss, I can do it. If you give me a suplex, I can do it. If somebody's there to guide me, I'm good. I can flip.
Right.
But if I cannot flip by myself.
Wow.
So for 6 months, that's all they would let me work on in wrestling school was trying to flip. And I couldn't flip. So I was to the point where I was like, you know what? This is stupid now. And I'm not doing this. And I quit. And I called Goodhart up and said, I think I'm just going to quit. I'm out. And they were like, Joel was like, look, come to the school this Friday at this time. Meet me there. I got a surprise for you. I'm like, all right. So I go to the school and I'm sitting there and in comes Goodhart with Paul Orndorff. I'm like, okay. He explains to Orndorff the story, what's going on. Orndorff's like, all right, get in the ring. So we get in the ring, we lock up, a couple of reversals, blah, 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 blah. He fucking hip tosses me. I go over, and I'll never forget. I'm laying on the mat. I'm looking up at Paul Orndorff, and he's looking down at me. He goes, you know what your problem is, boy? You're too fucking fat. And he walked out of the ring, and I'm like, wow, laying there like, wow, okay. So at that point, Buddy Landell had come in and seen this happen. And Buddy jumped up and got in the ring, and he gets me up. He's like, don't fucking listen to him. He's like, come on. So Buddy got in the ring and worked with me, and he fucking worked a little match with me. And he's like, you can do it. It's just all in your head. And he said to Joel, he said, give him a fucking shot. Let him do a match.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Buddy Landell, I mean, he's a guy that I don't think gets his flowers, his credit that he deserves. You know what I mean? I guess they were supposed to put him and Flair in a program too, during the Crockett years, and that never happened. I don't know if his personal issues affected that or whatnot.
When I had started promoting shows when I had left ECW initially, and my plan all along was I wanted to pick up where Goodhart left off and go the right way,
right?
Not what Todd was doing, but make it where TWA left off. And I promoted on and off for about 4 or 5 years. And then when I really started going hardcore into it around 2000, I brought Buddy in, and Buddy spent a weekend at my house. And it was a freaking nightmare, because of his demons. I dealt with a lot that weekend, and but I also got to really talk to him and spend time with him and learn things. And yeah, he had a lot of demons, a lot of trouble, a lot of problems, but he was just a good dude, and he knew his problems. He knew, he'd be the first to admit, how he would fuck up on stuff, and it was just, there was one show, I think it was the Eddie Gilbert Memorial Show in Jersey. I think the second one.
It was run by Dennis Corluzzo, correct?
By Dennis, yeah. And he was screwed up in the back dressing room, and
Hey, this is the one-man gold mine, the one-man enterprise of professional wrestling and all entertainment, Flynn Hendricks. And you better believe when I'm looking for a good podcast to listen to, I go to my own. I go to the I Know You Hear Me podcast hosted by me, Flynn Hendricks.
That is such a fresh perspective for how you should look at life, too. I love that.
And then when I'm feeling spooky, I go to my other podcast, Tales from the Haunt, where myself...
I want my head shoved inside a 15-pound silicone mask. More. I want to have a bucket of sweat coming off me at the end of the night.
Than just Jeff.
Dogs don't lay eggs, Flynn.
I hate you so much.
Talk to other scare actors about what it takes to get into the world of scare acting. So if you're curious about how people became professional wrestlers, actors, prioritized their mental health, became entrepreneurs, avoided burnout, or got into scare acting, you need to go check out I Know You Hear Me and Tales from the Haunt, available on all podcasting platforms. And I know you hear me.
Hi, this is Bob Smith. You might remember me from my years at Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine. Well, now I've started a brand new podcast called The Outdated Wrestling Hour. Yes, we're going to take a whimsical look back at the wrestling figures, stars, and trends from years gone by. We're talking 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and a whole lot more. There's going to be laughs. There's going to be fun. There's going to be action. You name it. Please tune in for the Outdated Wrestling Hour wherever you get your podcasts.
He was partying. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but he was passed out on the locker room floor, and Cornette was over top of him, smacking him in the face to wake him up. He's like, and he was hollering, I'll never forget it. He was hollering at him, Buddy, don't you die on me, Buddy. And he's smacking him across the face. I'm like, oh, Buddy, please get the fuck up, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. Did you still speak with? Were you still speaking with him around the time of his passing?
Yeah, we would. We used to exchange phone calls like at least once a year, once every 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
He would be on Facebook for a few months, and then he'd pop off and call me and be like, I'm done with Facebook. Fuck Facebook. Just you want to get me, just text me or call me, and so we kept in touch. And then he would again pop back on Facebook. And then he popped back off, and then, something had, he was always getting into car accidents.
Yeah.
Always. Mm-hmm. And something happened, and I don't know, just a shame.
It is a shame, because, that guy, hopefully at some point he'll get the recognition that he really deserves, because that guy was an amazing talent. He had all the talent in the world, and he just couldn't get to that level because of, some issues. So yeah. So let me see here. Tell me about working with you guys were with the Hell Riders, correct? It was a tag team.
Yeah. So that was my initial. We were in ECW. We were the Hell Riders. I was EZ. He was HD, and it was fun. It was funny because as I was going through wrestling school, it was always like, well, what's my gimmick going to be? What's my gimmick going to be? And nobody could figure it out. And when that idea started being tossed around, I was super excited and happy, because my favorite wrestler for the longest time, and probably still to this day, my all-time favorite is Adrian Adonis, and not when he was doing, Adrian with the flower shop. Yeah, it was early Adrian with the biker gimmick and the leather jacket and the hat, and he would have the suitcase. What was it? Good night, Trudy, or something, or Relax with Trudy.
Yeah.
I mean that, and after he passed away, and I was in the business at that point, and I went back and would watch his matches or get tapes of his matches. He was without a doubt one of the greatest workers of all time. That really don't get credit. I mean, that guy could bump his fucking ass off.
Did you ever see, I believe it was Donahue, where he was on there with they had the AWA characters on there, and not characters, wrestlers on there, I think. Was it Phil Donahue? It was one of those talk shows, and I believe they had a ring set up, and it was Greg Gagne, and I believe Adrian Adonis had a match in front of the television studio.
No.
Yeah, I believe it's Adrian Adonis. I want to say that it is. I hope I'm not wrong on air. But either way, I thought it was an amazing matchup because, I like Greg Gagne a lot as well. So I'm a huge AWA fan, like growing up. I believe it was Adrian Adonis and him, and this is like probably a year before he went to WWF, maybe.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah. If I find it, I'm going to show it to you because I'm going to definitely show it to you. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's really cool. So let's see. So what was it like with you were Easy, you said, correct? And then how was the who's the other guy? I'm sorry.
So HD was another he was a guy who from the Tri-State Wrestling School as well.
Yep.
And super nice guy. Older guy. He's like 10 years older than me. And everybody used to call him Uncle Pat. He was, I think, he might even have been more than 10 years. He might have been like 12, 13 years older than me because he was like in his early 30s at the time. And I was 20 years old when we debuted. I was 22.
Okay.
But he such a good dude. And he just was such a wrestling fan and always wanted to try it. And he just wanted to do it for fun.
Yeah.
So
you didn't want him to make a career out of it or anything like that?
Nah, he had a good job making good money, and he was married, and he wasn't looking to go on the road or anything like that. So that was the only like little problem we had because I was, ready to go. I wanted to do this. So when we started like trying to get other bookings, other places, it became, we were getting some bookings, and then I was like, well, let's try to go here. Let's try to go there. He's like, nah, I don't want to do that. So.
Right.
But,
I always find that amazing when people say that now they never wanted to do it as a career. They just wanted to do it on like weekends and stuff like that. I'm like, you kind of invest a lot of money in doing this to be just doing it for a hobby. And then to not try to get to that level. You know what I mean? It's just, I've always found that interesting. Like I spoke with Mike Kalua not so long ago, and he said, he just wanted to work the independents. He didn't necessarily want to go, sign with the WWE, WCW, and do large tours because he said that he had a family. He'd rather stay close to home where he can go. And he had a really good job as well. So he could just go do shots on the weekends and stuff like that and then be back home for work and with his family throughout the week. So I find that fascinating. Especially a guy like Mike Kalua, who
I wouldn't have expected that from him.
Yeah, when I was a kid, he was like a huge star to me. You know what I mean? So I just find that fascinating. So,
and I think I've seen pictures. He's still working occasionally too. I think.
Yeah, I think he works a lot. Like I think it was like 2 months ago. I did an interview with him, and he was awesome. I'm telling you, like he was really good dude, and he was a lot of fun to talk to. And I watched him work for the Savoldis. Obviously, did you ever end up working for the Savoldis? They were around for a little bit.
Yeah, they were around. I never got the chance to.
Okay, I know there was sometimes a little crossover there before, before they were extinct. Not to say that they were, because I was always a huge fan of the Savoldi territory.
Yeah,
growing up. Yeah. So what was it like? Did you have any kind of relationship with Eddie Gilbert, and what was he like while working there?
So Eddie, I was helping out behind the scenes with ECW at the time, like with doing helping them do promotions of shows. So when the TV tapings were set up and all, Todd called me up. He's like, "Hey, we're doing the TV tapings at Cabrini College. Can you come to the office, pick up, the posters and flyers to go out and put around the college for me? And I got some big news I got to tell you. I was like, oh, okay. So I go to his office, me and my buddy Frank Cody, who was on some of the early shows too. And Todd told us that he hired Eddie Gilbert to be the booker. And I was fucking jumping out of the seat. Like, I'm like, yes. I'm like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever, because I was a huge Gilbert mark. Loved Eddie Gilbert. So, and I loved his style, loved his booking. I was like, this is going to be fucking phenomenal. We're going to blow the roof off. This is just what we need. I'm like, now Todd's got it. Todd, this is where I'm like, Todd knows he needs something to put us over with TV.
Right.
So Eddie came in, and he was kind of a dick. I mean, honestly,
really?
he was kind of a dick. I guess I can't remember if it was the first set of tapings or maybe it was the first set, where at one point he just came busting into the locker room and just started hollering at everybody that we all fucking suck. You guys don't deserve to be on TV. If you don't change, you're all going to be fired. And we were just like, what the hell? Like, okay, like, this is real now. Like, this isn't like true just weekend warrior stuff. This is like legitimate. We're doing TV, and we have a real person handling the booking that's been through it all. So it was very eye-opening. And at the time, being the young green kid in the locker room, I was, kind of not standoffish, but kind of taken back. And when I was let go, I was very angry and bitter. But as time went on, like, I totally understood. And especially as I watch these matches and everything now, and I talk about it on all these episodes, like, I just keep saying, like, for the most part, probably 90% of the locker room was not ready for TV. We were not TV ready or worthy, because it's not a good product. The matches are not good. Nothing's cohesive, really. It's kind of just a giant cluster.
There was a lot of younger talent there at the time, mixed in with a lot of the legends that were in there. So it's kind of what it was. Like, should you guys be working with these guys? Kind of a thing. Step it up a bit. We're on national. They're on. I wouldn't say they were on national TV at that point. I mean, I think it was pretty much centralized into the Philadelphia area, right? Yeah. I know. I think we got it on TV up here in 1994. I believe we got it on the MSG network, actually.
Yeah,
it was on like 2 a.m. So I used to stay up. I used to work until midnight when I at that time, and then come home and stay up for another 3 hours just to wait so I could watch that every Saturday.
Wow.
So, yeah, I got to see a lot of firsts there. First time I saw Chris Benoit was there, and guys like that, Dean Malenko, and I had seen guys like probably Public Enemy, but before that, but didn't even realize it, like Cheetah, when the Cheetah Kid and Mike Durham had several other gimmicks, prior. Let's see. So, how did you become a Dudley?
So, like I had mentioned earlier, I went through wrestling school with Steve Richards, and Richards was just brought in doing the gimmick with Raven.
Yep.
And we were still in touch, and he said to me, he goes, yo, I got brought back in. He's like, watch it. Look, I want you to see what you think. I want to know what you think, what they're doing with the gimmick and all. And I was like, dude, this is fucking hysterical. This is amazing. Like, now I'm like watching it every week to see what he's up to. And I became a fan of ECW now. I finally was like, all right, this is fucking good shit. This is awesome.
It's when the change was happening, it became a better product. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then the Dudleys come in. And I remember sitting there like, holy shit, I look like the Dudleys. I could be a Dudley. And Richards calls me. He goes, Raven started this new gimmick, the Dudleys. I said, I saw. He goes, you should be a Dudley. I said the same thing. I think I look just like him. He's like, come out this weekend. I'll introduce you to Paul and see what we can do. I said, all right. So I went and met them at the hotel after the arena show, and I'm in the lobby talking to Richards, and in comes walking Paul. Before either is even say anything, Paul goes, "Oh my God, another fucking Dudley."
Wow.
So Richards is like, "This is the guy I was telling you about." And Paul said to me, "Do you have a tie dye?" I said, "No." He said, "Get a tie dye." I said, "Okay." He goes, "What do you want your gimmick to be?" And I always wanted to do like a gorgeous Jimmy Garvin gimmick. And I was like, Studley Dudley, like fluffing my hair up. He's like, "Yeah, no, that's not going to work." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Get food, get a tie dye, come to the shows next weekend. You're Chubby Dudley." I said, "Okay."
And it worked.
And it's so yeah.
How long were you there for under that gimmick?
About a year and a half.
A year and a half. Okay. What was it like working with all those fellas there? The others, I'm trying to remember all of them. Obviously, we know the two bigger guys. Yeah.
It was amazing. It really was. It was a lot of fun. It was. I mean, the whole locker room, the whole experience was just. It just amazing. And I was sitting there, each weekend at these shows, and I just remember sitting there, either if I'm watching the monitor or just talking to people, saying to myself, "This is history being made right now." Like,
right.
I felt it, and I'm sure the locker room felt it too. There was such a vibe going on that I just knew that this was magic, and I'm blessed and lucky to be here and be part of this wrestling history.
From what I understand, you didn't necessarily have a lot of matches during that time period. It was mostly, were you like a sidekick? Sorry, lack of a better term, sidekick in there. You know what I mean? So
yeah, like when I was, and it was never discussed. We never talked about anything. It was just show up every weekend and, here's what you're doing. And it was just go out, be part of the sideshow, and take a chair shot. Do this, do that. And that's what I did. And I thought I would get a shot. I kept thinking, all right, they see me come, I'm here. They're going to eventually put me in something. They're going to need me. Somebody's going to get hurt. There's going to be a spot that opens up. They're going to need me. And I mean, I was there before Bubba, and then Bubba came in. I was like, okay. And then Devon came in. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, that's interesting. And then we went a little stretch there. And then Spike came in. And then Spike, the first night, was like, got a match. I'm like, wait a minute here. What the fuck about me? At that point, I'm like, all right, I get it now. Like, I'm not even a consideration. They have no plans to use me. And I guess probably about a month later, I ended up just leaving. I didn't even say nothing. I just left because I was just so frustrated. My partner, Sam.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so you ended up leaving just on your own. That's nothing else. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I just stopped going to the shows.
What did you end up doing after that? Where'd you go?
So I started. My phone starts ringing because people want to book an ECW guy.
Right.
So I started doing indie shots every weekend, and I was very, very close and tight with Dennis Carluzzo.
Right.
And Dennis, booked me on all the shows. Well, that was a no-no because ECW and NWA at that time were bitter enemies.
Yep.
And I'm guessing Paul got pissed. Probably Taz. Taz ended up calling me at work. I was working at a pizza shop, and Taz called me at the pizza shop and threatened me if I continued to keep doing the Dudley gimmick, which is kind of amusing. Like when I think about it now, like he said to me, if you keep doing the Dudley gimmick, it's our gimmick. If you keep doing it on the indies, I'm going to come out to one of these shows and stretch you. And I'm like, okay, but don't you want to hear my side? And I was trying to talk to him and plead my case, and he didn't want to hear any of it. which whatever I get, but it's a 30 years later. It's kind of a funny, hysterical story, and I'm still waiting for the chance to actually talk to Taz about it and get a laugh about it.
Would you? Where'd you go from there as far as gimmick goes? If that was the case, or did you continue?
No, I stopped doing the Dudley gimmick, and I took a page out of Eddie Gilbert's book. Instead of Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, I became the Hot Shot Bay Ragni.
Okay.
Formerly known as Chubby Dudley.
Tell me about the incident with the Sandman. You had an incident with that he said he said you don't belong here or something. Get out. You don't belong here.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, sorry.
So, they had put me in an opening match. They needed somebody to team up with El Puerto Ricano, and it was against the Bad Crew. And Sandman pulled me aside before we went out, and he said, "Hey, because it was go out, work the match for a few minutes. Sandman's going to hit the ring and cane everybody and do his thing." So Hack said to me, he said, "Look, you don't belong out there. You're a Dudley. They're pushing you guys. I'm going to come out. I'm going to hit the ring. Just instantly feed to me. I'll whack you once, powder, and just go back to the dressing room and get out." He's like, "I'm going to beat the shit out of these guys." I was like, "Okay, thank you."
Well, all right. Tell me, let's see here. Let's go. And tell me about starting your own company and such.
Well, that started in 90. My first show was 94, November 94. And that all started because, the Hell Riders and 75% of the locker room of the original ECW was kicked to the curb.
Right.
So we wanted a place to work. We needed a place to work, and we wanted that old TWA style. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'll put it together. So myself and Frank Cody, who was helping me with behind the scene promotions with Todd, and a friend of his, Lucky Larry Reed, the three of us were the original owners, and we started Liberty All-Star Wrestling.
Sounds familiar.
We ran shows 94 to 96. And then when I left the business for a couple years and got married and everything, and then I started promoting again in 99 and promoted from 99 to 02.
I'm trying to think. There was one member. I'm trying to look it up here. I know he worked as Alexander the Great at one point with a big, tall Dudley. What was his name? I'm trying to remember. I think he wore glasses.
Big Dick Dudley?
Yeah, that's him.
Alex.
Yeah. I think he was Alexander the Great when he worked for the Savoldis. That's how I remember him first. That's the first time I'd ever seen him. Do you remember working with him and then have any memories of that guy?
He was like a gentle giant. He was like this big dude who, I mean, he was legitimately like the true big brother of the Dudleys. Like, he really looked out for us, and that was the thing that always stuck out to me about him, was the total gentle giant vibe, and just a super nice guy who supposedly had been through a lot. and he was, there was one incident. It was one of the first arena weekends that I did, where after the show, we would go back to the Travelodge Hotel. That's where everybody would stay and party and all. And he, I think he was drunk. Yeah, he was drunk, and he was like, work the gimmick, and he was like coming into the bar and grabbing us and growling and throwing us around. And then he started throwing beer bottles at us and beer bottles at people. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Who else ended up working with you guys around that time period that you enjoyed working with?
Oh man. Jericho was a lot of fun.
Really?
Yeah. He always would. Every time I come walking in the locker room, he was always like, "Chubby, come here. What food you got? What do you got?" He was always stealing my food, especially if I had like cereal or donuts or something. Like by the time I got out the ring, it was like half, almost always eaten, and not for me.
That's funny. That's hilarious. So Jericho was in there. So let's see. I'm trying to think. Did you work? Did you get to meet Ray at all in there? Was he in there at that time period? Ray Mysterio?
Mysterio, yes.
Yeah.
Ray was a great dude. What was it? Mysterio and Psychosis, when they did those matches when they first came in. I just remember sitting there watching it in the dressing room, being absolutely blown away. I was just like, "Holy shit! This is a whole nother level now."
Go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean, Benoit was there, Guerrero was there, Woman, Austin, McFoley, Pillman. I mean, all them guys came through. Steiner's when I first got there.
I remember them when they're in there for that. They only worked a couple shots for there, right? I believe.
Yeah.
And Gangrel was there, I believe, right? Was he the Vampire Warrior at the time? He just coming out of the what the hell was the tag team? He was in that
the Brood or whatever?
No, it was prior to the Brood. He worked Herb Abrams' promotion.
Damn,
I can't even think of the name off of the top of my head. Luna was the manager. Let me just look it up real quick here. So
I get pictured on under the mask.
Yeah, because
black mask.
I just saw him the other day. I saw an old match of his where he was wearing that mask in WWF as they just called him the Black Phantom instead of as opposed to whatever the tag team was. I'm trying to think here.
What the hell? What was the
I'm going to look it up. I know because they worked Herb Abrams a lot. He really pushed him to the moon during that era.
They were Tri-State Wrestling champs too.
Yeah. Yes. Let's see here. I'm gonna have it here in just a second, and it is. I can't find it. Holy crap! Oh wait, the Blackhearts. The Blackhearts. Yes, the Blackhearts. Yep. Yeah. They were an amazing tag team, I thought. But
amazing.
Yeah, and
way before their time.
Oh yeah, and the fact that like Abrams had them, and he Tri-State had them. I interviewed John Arezzi earlier today.
Okay.
And we were talking about Abrams and how he gets a lot of kind of flack, got a lot of weird talk, because of his, I guess, uniqueness.
Cocaine.
Yeah, we'll put it out there. Yeah, no problem. But he did have a vision, and he brought in and gave guys like Foley work, but while and put him probably his first actual big push in the United States before going to like a ECW or whatever.
With TV, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's he did have a vision, and he wasn't necessarily, I guess he was crazy, but not crazy, not as crazy as people think maybe.
Look, anybody, this was said to me early on. Anybody that gets into the wrestling business is quote unquote fucking crazy.
It's it takes a lot of dedication. It really does. So
if that's the word you want to use, okay.
Oh yeah, I get what you're saying. Everybody's a little quirky, I guess you could say, to an extent. So you do this really awesome podcast, like you said. We talked about it at the top of the show. I want to get back into it a little bit. But you were talking about the Super Destroyers not so long ago, and really putting them over on your podcast.
Yeah, it's as I watched them, and we were feuding with them before we got TV. Mm-hmm. So we worked them a handful of times. But now that I'm actually getting to like sit and watch these matches, mm-hmm. AJ especially, Doug was he was still kind of green, but AJ was truly a freaking talent.
Yeah,
he really was. He reminded me of like that Adrian Adonis, were very light on his feet, can take these great bumps, and he was a guy, I don't know, he just never got a true chance to shine.
Yeah, I thought he was a phenomenal wrestler. I mean it's funny because when I asked him to be on the podcast, obviously, no, I don't think I mentioned it. I think I said it off air, but AJ Petruzzi is coming on the show. We're just setting a date, got to finalize a date. But when I started doing all this research, I didn't realize the career that the guy had outside of, what him teaming with Shaw. I think they were the Executioners at one point, and you know, the Super Destroyers, and then his WWF career. He had a really interesting career. Like, his career was really awesome if you really dig deep and find it. And now it made me even more excited to be able to talk to him in the future.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So now I need to go back and research his career.
No, I mean, I just like he worked in the NWF as well with Ron Shaw as a tag team, and they were the NWF tag team champions. I believe Ron told me that they beat the Fantastics for the titles. So yeah, that's pretty. I mean, I think that's pretty kind of a big deal right there. The Fantastics were kind of major players at that time period. Yeah,
amazing tag team.
Yeah. So what else do you have going on for your show? Tell me about what you have coming up.
So the next episode drops tomorrow. It's every 3 days, new episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what the new episode is. I forget what the old episode. They're like all starting to run together because what I do is I'll watch an episode and I'll record the next 5, and then I go back and figure out what I'm going to call them and title them and make thumbnails and all. But and I did like 3 of them last night. I forget which one's which. So, but I'm only that's all I know is I'm still only on the 6th episode of TV history. So I have a lot to go.
I'm looking forward to that because I've been enjoying the podcast. Now tonight I'm going to go watch episode 6 when I get out of here. So just so I know what I'm in store for when I go watch your episode. Have you ever been hit up for like convention appearances or anything like that?
So I when I was living in the Philadelphia area, I was doing some conventions with the whole. It's funny, like the channel started a few months back, and then Sign Guy hit me up about 2 months ago and texted me one night. He said, "Hey, there's a guy who's making these ECW autograph cards of the boys. He's interested in you. Do you want to do a deal with him?" I'm like, hell yeah. So I do that. We get the deal done. I get the cards, and I start promoting them on social media that I have them for sale. And I instantly get hit up for a Comic-Con appearance here, and I'm living in Nashville now.
Wow.
So I did that last month. I got booked for that guy booked me for another Comic-Con in July. I'm booked on a wrestling show, appearing at a wrestling show, just doing autographs in June. And I was offered a wrestling convention in May in Pigeon Forge, but I just couldn't get it to work out right. But yeah, so yeah, all of a sudden, Chubby Dudley business is back, and I just got approved for Pro Wrestling Tees. So I have my graphics guy starting to work on some things, and Chubby Dudley shirts will be available soon.
Yeah, I want to get one of those cards from you sometime. Maybe I'll grab one this week. You still have them, right?
Oh yeah. I have about they were limited. I think I had 150 total. So I've probably sold about 30 so far.
Okay, that'd be a cool piece because I just collect odd stuff, like that. So, and I love cards.
It came out nice. I was very very excited after I got it. I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
this is cool.
Yeah. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the internets?
So they can go right on YouTube. It's React and Chill with Chubby Dudley. It's at Chubby Dudley Official on YouTube. Because YouTube, they consider themselves to be a social media site now.
Yeah.
So they can go there. I have a Chubby Dudley official Facebook page, or on Instagram, The Bay Ragni Show.
All right. And I want everybody to go check all that stuff out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and get these numbers up there. Get the subscriptions up there. So let's get you to be able to monetize your channel too, as well. I'm sure that would be a lovely thing.
Yes, please. Let's do that.
I want to thank you so much for joining me today. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Wrestling fans, promoters, wrestlers, and anyone who enjoys pro wrestling now have something new to be excited about. The Wrestling Fans International Association, the WFIA, is back. WFIA is an association that exists to promote, grow, and support professional wrestling throughout the world. Membership is free. Your membership includes a free digital, bi-monthly publication of the Wrestling Fan News newsletter, association updates, voting privileges, and much more. Please go to thewfia.org, that's THEWFIA.org, and become a member today.